So the best ways to increase storage strength, Bjork would describe them as desirable difficulties. Make the retrieval difficult. Create conditions of low retrieval strength. And one way to do that is spacing out the study sessions. Using self-testing rather than rereading information. Again, self-testing, that's more difficult. It's a more difficult retrieval act than just rereading information. Tests require active retrieval of information, which uses dedicated brain networks and is more difficult than recognition memory. Strategy 3, change the context of the learning. Change the study locations, mix up the study topics to force more difficult retrieval. So basically, this idea of desirable difficulties, they give the student the appearance that learning is not happening efficiently, but in fact, counterintuitively, they are the best ways to make long-term memories. Remember to check forgetting after a delay, and be careful with long study sessions. They lose their value because synaptic plasticity may have reached its limits. So in summary then, there's a lot to consider if we want to transition from a less educated individual to a more educated individual. And one of the things, a concept in play nowadays in psychology, is this concept of metacognition. We want to understand ourselves as thinkers, as problem solvers. We want to know ourselves. And as we've seen, lots of students suffer from misconceptions and illusions in the study process. And the good study practices help us reveal that we may have these misconceptions, and they also maximize our learning potential. And here's a quick example of a metacognitive disconnect. So we can believe that forgetting happens. Sure, everybody understands that forgetting happens, but we often don't behave as if it does, especially when it comes to our learning strategies. So this would be a metacognitive disconnect. We are not aware that some of our own sort of beliefs and practices are not matching up with what we need to do to maximize our learning. So let's see what it is to go from a less educated to a more educated individual. Let's focus on the semantic memory network here. Here we've got some concepts related to life, like what does it mean to be alive? Well, living things reproduce, they process energy. Now we know that, or the educated person knows that living things are made of cells. Cells are alive, and cells reproduce, cells process energy. But this person, being less educated, hasn't even integrated the concept of cell into this memory network here. So we have weak links here. We have some concepts that are not even integrated into the memory network. This is the less educated individual. By contrast, the more educated individual has a richer semantic memory network. We've got the concepts are well learned, and they are effectively and strongly linked to each other in the proper ways. So living things are made of cells, and cells do reproduce. Cells process energy. Cells are alive. So this is the mark of the educated individual. With the proper cues, they could retrieve this information quickly and tell us lots of things about life. Now, the question, of course, is how do you go from the less educated to the more educated? And in this series, we've been learning about some of these techniques. We want to use spaced study sessions. This guarantees that our retrieval strength will be low, and that sets up the best opportunities to increase the storage strength. So we want to space out our study sessions. In addition, that means that we're going to be undergoing repeated rounds of consolidation, which is the process that is going to strengthen the memories in the cortex. We want to use retrieval practice. This technique seems to be better than rereading or just looking over notes. We're actively engaging our retrieval systems, and this leads to better access to the information later on. So it's still unclear exactly why this process is working, but the actual studies show clear benefits to retrieval practice compared to, say, restudying or rereading. We also want to use deep processing techniques. So whatever information we're trying to learn, we want to try to connect it up with things we already know. We want to relate it to things we know ourselves. We want to embed it with rich links to other concepts in our semantic memory system. And these are deep processing techniques. Now, in addition to these kind of direct study strategies, there are other kinds of things that can enhance our learning process. We want to be a good communicator about our learning needs. We want to have a growth mindset. and this has been shown to facilitate learning. We want to be able to embrace the struggle that sometimes accompanies learning. We want to be a resilient learner. We want to, benefit from setbacks, etc. So we've got a lot that it takes to become an educated individual, but scientists are now finding out what are the best practices. And if we have the right sort of mental approach to our learning, and we use best practices, we'll have the best chance then of becoming that educated person that we might want to be.